2021 meeting of the Greenville City Council to order. I'm Mayor P.J. Connolly. I'll be moderating tonight's meeting. First, I would like to call on Councilmember Bell for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mayor. Please bow your heads. Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of community. Fill us with your grace, Lord, as we make decisions that might affect the citizens of the city of Greenville, and continue to remind us that all that we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of you, and for the service of humanity. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mayor Connolly.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Glover.
Here.
Councilmember Daniels.
Present.
Councilmember Bell.
Here.
Councilmember Smiley.
Here.
And Council members Litchfield and Meyerhofer have informed us they will not be attending this evening. Mayor Connolly, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on to the approval of tonight's agenda. Madam Manager, any recommended changes?
Yes, Mayor, I would like to request that the council remove item number 8, which is a lease agreement for the American Legion Post. We will remove that item and bring that a different item to the council at your January meeting.
Move to approve as revised.
Second.
All right, motion's been made by Councilmember Bell, seconded by Councilmember Smiley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Motion passes, Mayor, 4-0.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on to the public comment period. The public comment period is a period reserved for comments by the public. Items that were or are scheduled to be the subject of a public hearing conducted at this meeting or another meeting during the same week shall not be discussed. A total of 30 minutes is allocated, with each individual being allowed no more than 3 minutes. Individuals who register with the city clerk to speak will speak in the order registered until the allotted 30 minutes expires. If time remains after all persons who have registered have spoken, individuals who did not register will have an opportunity to speak until the allotted 30 minutes expires. Madam Clerk, our first speaker.
Mayor Connolly, we do not have any registered speakers.
Thank you. Anyone that would like to speak during the public comment period, please come forward, state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes. There's a lot of faces out there today. Absolutely.
Greetings, Mayor. Greetings, fellow council, city manager. You guys know me, I'm Jermaine McNair, but as you may know, recently I took on a position as an instructor of sociology with our local East Carolina University and Pitt Community College. As a part of my students' finals exam, they're doing their reports, and I gave them a list of community events that happen around our city all the time, and they were asked, as they were to test their training throughout the semester, to analyze social events for either what social issue they address or what social function they provide. So many of the students, if you're from or connected to one of my classes, y'all can raise your hands and say hi. But so everyone comes in peace, but they are here to just learn about what you guys do, and thank you all for your service.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Mr. McNair.
Hope you teach a lot more classes.
And I think, didn't you say something, too, that they get extra credit if they come and speak during the public comment period?
They get a lot of extra credit.
Anyone else that'd like to speak during the public comment period, please come forward, state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes. Serious, you will surprise them if you come and speak. You just never know.
Never know.
Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Madam Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. The consent agenda includes the following items. Item number 1 is a request for authorization to condemn property for Greenville Utilities Commission easement acquisition for the Southeast Sewer Service Area Project. Item number 2 is a resolution of intent to close a portion of Line Avenue from the northern right-of-way of Dickinson Avenue to the southern right-of-way of CLNA Railroad. Item number 3 is a resolution of intent to close a portion of Truman Street from the northern right-of-way of West Street to the southern right-of-way of CLNA Railroad. Item number 4 is a resolution authorizing the filing of 2 applications to the United States Department of Homeland Security for the FY 2022 FEMA Building Resilience Infrastructure and Communities Grant Program for stormwater capital projects. Item number 5 is a lease agreement proposal for the replacement of the current golf and utility cart fleet at Bradford Creek Public Golf Course. Item number 6 is a contract with Riverside Recreation LLC for the provision of water sports services at Wildwood Park. And item number 7 is the acceptance of the donation of the heart sculpture from the Pitt County Arts Council.
Move to approve the
Second.
consent agenda.
All right, motion's been made by Councilmember Smiley, second by Councilmember Bell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Motion passes, Mayor, 4-0.
Thank you very much. We'll skip to new business. Item number 9, Madam Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 9 is an amendment to the CDBG CV Small Business Assistance Program, and I'll call forward Tiana Berryman for that presentation. Ms. Berryman?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to begin with a little bit of history about the CDBG CV program. It was intended to prevent, prepare for, and respond to the pandemic. The city received $1,164,559 in 2 allocations. The timeline for the use of these funds was 3 years to have 80% of the funds expended, and 6 years to have 100% of those funds expended. Okay, so just to give you an idea, that 3-year mark is 2023, so February of 2023. Okay, so projects that council approved in the annual action plan, substantial amendment from last fall, included small business assistance, emergency rental assistance, nonprofit support, and admin. That includes working with a consultant, Civitas, for underwriting and intake for both the business and emergency rental assistance. So here's a budget for all of the CV activities that were included in that substantial amendment that council approved. We had $672,802 allocated for small business assistance, a little over $225,000 for emergency rental assistance, $150,001 for nonprofit support, and $116,455 for admin, totaling that $1.1 million and change. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and point out an error on my part. Looking at this timeline, November of 2020 is when council approved the amended annual action plan, but it was actually February of this year, that we actually received the green light from HUD to move forward on those programs. Okay, and then April 1st of 2021, when the city began accepting applications for both small business and rental assistance. And around that time, also, the nonprofit support requests were approved by the Affordable Housing Loan Committee on a rolling basis. Now, typically, their applications are received in December, and there is one approval process, one approval meeting, if you will, for the Affordable Housing Loan Committee that happens February or March, depending on the timeline. But because we knew these funds were coming, and we were trying to make allowance for nonprofits to participate, we did receive CV or nonprofit applications for programs that were addressing coronavirus-related activities on a rolling basis. Okay, so the city received 2 applications for coronavirus-related funding from CDBG. They came from Boys and Girls Club, and a total of $30,000 for a virtual academy. This is due to the distance learning setup that we experienced the spring of last year and into the summer. And then also, Community Crossroads requested $134,992 for hotel motel expenses for displaced residents because the shelter had was maintaining social distancing. So they were not able to use the congregate space as they had been, and there were no family rooms. So we have recently worked out a contract, and looking forward to Community Crossroads implementing that soon. So the total for both of those nonprofit applications was $164,992. That does exceed the original budget. However, there is some grace built in our HUD guidelines because of the nature of the funding, and we have some wiggle room, if you will, and we utilize that for this. So at this point, we are still safe in our numbers, and it does not cause any budgetary issues.
And we could, I guess we just took it from maybe like a different allocation, like if we had for small businesses.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Ultimately, it's coming out of our admin budget. We were able to stay under our anticipated expenses for admin to go directly into programming.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So both applications that received were approved for the total funding request. And it's maybe worth mentioning the requirements for nonprofit participation include meeting a national objective, either supporting low and moderate income families or individuals, eliminating slum and blight, or meeting an urgent need, having 2 years of experience with audits with no findings, serving the citizens of Greenville, obviously, and then having other sources of funds available, as CDBG is intended to fill gaps and not totally fund any particular project. Okay, moving on to the rental assistance program. This offered up to $1,500, not to exceed 3 months in rental arrears. That is a cap set by HUD, the 3-month time period anyway. For citizens who are experiencing financial hardship as a result of the pandemic. The initial budget was a little over $225,000. That was totally exhausted in July of this year, but due to continued demand, the program was funded with an additional $43,164, also from admin, and that allowed us to reopen the program with that reallocation November of this year, and funds are now exhausted again. Okay, so we are no longer advertising that program as we stand now. The total budget has been expended. I think it's on the next slide. There we go. So staff received 392 applications. Of those applications, 221 were approved, and the primary cause for denial for the 171 applications that were not approved included being outside of the jurisdiction, failure to provide documentation, and staff was quite flexible with deadlines to get that information in, but understanding we did have timelines to meet, so staff and the consultant worked to contact applicants, giving them a chance to get any missing pieces to their application in, and if they were able to provide those at any time, we did, and they were eligible, we did recommend funding.
Do you have any idea off the top of your head, this may be just out of the blue, but do you have any idea as far as how much money is allocated through the HOPE funding through the state of North Carolina?
I don't know for sure, not off the top of my head, but I could get that number if you're
Well, I was just
interested.
going to say, because I do know that they are still,
That's
even
right.
though our funding has stopped,
That's
that
right.
tenants that are in the city limits of Greenville still can apply for emergency rental assistance
That's
through the
correct.
HOPE funding. So it's not like when we've stopped and
Right.
there's no other resources available for them.
That's right. There are other resources available, and as we receive applications, as we get calls, staff has been directed to provide information for other programs. So we're trying to continue to provide support the best we can, even though we don't have resources immediately available at this time.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So duplication of benefits was also a cause for denial, and that simply means, for example, if a household received funding from the HOPE program for the same time period, the city could not also provide funding for that time period, okay? And then just funds being depleted. Okay, so the total award dispersed was $268,465.19. Okay. All right, moving on to the Small Business Assistance Program. This reimbursed eligible expenses that were incurred after December 1st of 2020, primarily because there were several other programs that offered assistance, like the PPP program, Paycheck paycheck protection, and we wanted to try to avoid duplication of benefits there to ensure the integrity of our program. So eligible expenses included rent and mortgage, employee wages, and business insurance. The total award was $15,000, or is, as stands, is $15,000. And there's a required demonstration of job retention after 3 months. So the award is dispersed in 2 payments. Half of the award is provided up front, and the other half is provided after that retention, the demonstration of job retention is provided. And that, again, is a HUD requirement. Okay, here's some examples of types of businesses that were served through the program. So staff received 36 applications, 15 of which were approved. The primary cause for denial was just being outside of the jurisdiction, failure to provide documentation, and ineligible businesses. Essentially, that just means home businesses. So it gets a little sticky when we're reimbursing for rent and mortgage, primarily mortgage, because this is not intended to be a mortgage assistance program. So we had to steer clear of home businesses for that reason. So the total award dispersed was just shy of $200,000, and the eligible expenses exceeding the existing cap, essentially meaning those expenses, businesses who had expenses that would have been deemed eligible if it weren't for our $15,000 cap, totaled $216,349.30. Okay, so that is the primary motivation behind amending the Small Business Assistance Program. The unfunded eligible expenses, so past applicants, let me back up. So the staff is looking at increasing the maximum award from $15,000 to $50,000, which is allowable by HUD, and would consider past applicants and eligible expenses that exceed that original $15,000 threshold. This does not require additional allocation of funds. We would be using the existing budget. And the potential award disbursement currently, like I said, is just shy of $200,000. If staff were to consider the potentially eligible expenses that were left on the table, our award disbursement would go up to $415,866.06. Okay, so after this particular amendment, the remaining SBA or small businesses budget would I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. So the remaining small business budget would actually go to $256,935, and the total unexpended CV balance would reduce from $440,799.08 to just shy of $225,000, which would make sure we were still in our that we would meet that 80% requirement being expended within 3 years. And the program would remain open until funds were exhausted. Okay. So staff recommends increasing the maximum award for the Small Business Assistance Program from $15,000 to $50,000, and I am open to questions and comments.
Any questions for Ms. Berryman?
Yes.
I have a question.
Councilmember Daniels?
So those who've already received the $15,000, they can move it up. Is there a time frame from when they receive that initial $15,000?
No, so staff would have to look at, we would have to review policies and procedures really at this point, just to ensure fairness, but we would look at those eligible expenses that were already submitted and just not awarded because of the cap. We have easy and quick access to that and could work with those business owners to ensure they were able to receive their maximum award.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, motion's been made by Councilmember Bell, second by Councilmember Daniels. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Motion passes, Mayor, 4-0.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to item number 10. Madam Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 10 is the approval of the 2021 Home Investment Partnership Fund's commitment for a multifamily rental housing development. And I'll again turn this over to Ms. Berryman.
All right, thank you. All right. So the consolidated plan identifies affordable housing and addressing homelessness as priorities for this 5-year plan period, which runs from 2018 until the end of next program year, 2023. A primary strategy is to remove barriers to affordable housing by promoting and providing assistance in construction and planning in low and moderate income communities and housing. Okay. The annual action plan allocated home funds for new construction of affordable housing that includes both owner-occupied and rental housing, excuse me. As you all know, there were 4 new single-family units that were created with these same home funds in Lincoln Park. And after the sale of these homes, the program income was recaptured, and the intent is to reinvest into similar community development programs. So partnerships with developers is a common practice for the home program to maximize the opportunity to get new units on the ground for eligible families. Okay, so this method allows the city to incentivize development, realize higher yield of units, and to help ensure affordability for both the developer and the resident. Okay. So since 2010, more than 272 affordable units have been produced in Greenville as a result of similar partnerships. Okay, here's some examples of those. Crystal Springs was 48 units for elderly, Nathaniel Village, 48 units for family, Winslow Point, 88 units for family, and Park Place Commons, 88 units for elderly. And you can also see the associated city contributions. Okay, and here is a timeline, and I see the accurate years here, so we're good to go. There was a presentation to the Affordable Housing Loan Committee in August of this year, introducing the concept for this project. On August 25th, there is a call for developers that was issued. On September 21st, staff received a proposal from the Taft Mills Group. On November 9th, a staff review committee met to determine eligibility for and to make a recommendation. And the following day, the Affordable Housing Loan Committee reviewed that recommendation and recommended award. Okay, so here we are. The Affordable Housing Loan Committee recommendation of funding is now being presented to the City Council for final award approval and authorizing issue of support for this program. Okay, so here's an overview of the Taft Mills Group project for Arlington Trace. A little bit of background, and you'll hear more from Mr. Mills, who's here to speak on the behalf of Taft Mills today. This project was awarded 4% tax credits from North Carolina Housing Finance Agency in August. The total investment is just shy of $29 million, and they're seeking $1 million in home supplemental funding from the city, which was advertised in August. And it's worth mentioning that they have had a successful past performance working with the city on similar projects. Okay, here's an idea of the location of the proposed project. As you can see, it's just off the intersection of Dickinson Avenue and Arlington Boulevard. The project summary includes targeting families up to 60% of the area median income. There will be 3-story buildings with a total of 180 units, 18 one-bedroom units, 102 two-bedroom, and 63 bedroom, and 18 or 10% of the units set aside for transitional housing for both veterans and domestic violence victims who are considered at risk or considered high risk for homelessness, with rents ranging from $642 to $897, and they are ensuring a 30-year affordability. Okay. Some of the project amenities include resident programs and related supportive services for the intended population, exercise and community room, covered picnic area, playground, tenant storage, and close proximity to numerous off-site amenities because they've already received been awarded tax credits from the state, we can ensure that they have received the state's blessing and that this is an attractive site for this location, for this project. Okay. Here you can see the intended design of the project. All right. As I mentioned, Arlington Trace was awarded 4% tax credits based on rents associated with the 2020 area median income. Our area did realize a decrease or reduction in our area median incomes from 2020 to 2021. This created a $1.8 million financial gap for this particular project, just because with the area, the affordable rent rates are based on the area median income. So as the area median income decreased, so did the potential rates for the units, and that created the financial gap. So they are requesting the allocated $1 million in the form of a deferred payment loan. The requested funding will affect the overall feasibility of the project, and with support of the supplemental funding, the project may begin construction in spring of '22. Okay, so I'm going to invite Mr. Dustin Mills up to share some information. I think you need to go. Oh, sorry. There we go. Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam Manager, members of City Council. I'm Dustin Mills. I'm president of Taft Mills Group here in Greenville. Thank you for your time tonight. Just wanted to give you a quick overview of Taft Mills Group, who we are. We are based here in Greenville. We're active in 3 states, and our firm specializes in the development of affordable housing. We've done about 90 affordable communities over the past 20 years. And in the last 5 years, we've done about 1,500 units throughout North Carolina, Virginia, and Maryland. Our recent Greenville activity, this is our home base. If you include this proposed development, it will total about 510 units. And so we're excited about that. And we're also proud that we're the 34th largest affordable developer in the country based right here in our community. So we like to pat ourselves on the back for that every once in a while. I thought it was important to show this picture. This is Parkside Commons. This is one of the developments that the city invested similar funding to back in 2016. This is an age-restricted community over in the medical park, and we're particularly proud of that particular development. And I like pictures because I think that shows the high level of quality of the affordable housing that we develop. This is Farrington Trace. This is on Fire Tower Road. This was just recently completed. We had our first move-ins this past week. And to give you just a snapshot of where we are active, we are located in throughout the state of North Carolina, but this just gives you a couple of snapshots of projects that we've completed or are under construction recently. Ms. Berryman showed the site, but we want to just reiterate the reason why the site's important to us. There's a couple of different reasons. One, it's close to lots of amenities, lots of jobs. We're right around the corner from the hospital. This site's unique in the sense from a public safety standpoint or a life safety standpoint, there are 3 points of ingress egress. 1 point is usually acceptable, 2 points is ideal, but 3 points is almost unheard of. So we're very excited about the opportunity to have that type of access. And I won't go through all of this, but just a snapshot because Ms. Berryman's slides touched on a lot of this, but this is almost a $29 million investment in our community. It will, I'd like to reiterate, it will serve individuals who make 60% or less of Pitt County's area median income. So this is working class individuals that will benefit from the ideal location of these particular units once they're completed. And then just a quick snapshot of the timeline. We hope to be in a position to submit this for permitting through the municipality in the early phase of 2022. And then it'll take a little bit of time to finalize our financing and move forward. But we hope to deliver units in this community at the late part of 2023, early part of 2024. And I'm available for any questions if needed.
Any questions for Mr. Mills or Ms. Berryman? Councilmember Smiley?
So you continue to own all the properties you showed us there that you developed over the last few years there?
Yes, sir. So the way the
And
tax credit.
manage them, I assume.
Yeah, so every one that we showed tonight, we continue to own it. And the way the tax credit program works is once we develop the property, it has a deed restriction of a minimum of 30 years for affordability. So it's not to say that the communities can't be sold, but their value on the market is not as great as it is to us just to own it, because we bring investors in to buy those tax credits. So I won't say that a tax credit property's never been sold. I can just say that it's not typical that a developer like ourselves would sell that community. But everything you saw here tonight, we continue to own today.
And that's all my questions. Thanks.
Any other questions?
I don't have a question. I just want to make a statement that I'm pleased. I work with domestic violence victims, and it's good to know that they're, we have something coming. We pride ourselves in Greenville as being a driving force for surrounding cities. So, is it on?
Okay.
Oh, okay. So and the veterans, I think it's a wonderful thing, affordable housing, and much needed at this time. So
Thank you. Thank you for that feedback, and I will add, based on on your statement there, we're not only providing the units, but we're partnering with local service providers to provide support to the individuals that will benefit from these units as well, because that's not our area of expertise, so we'll provide the units, and then we will partner with local organizations to provide that additional added level of support.
Okay, that's great news. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Glover?
I want to commend the Taft and Smith Group for Mills. I don't know why I say Smith. Mills Group for being someone that has stood out in the city of Greenville that has offered affordable housing for, the seniors, the military personnel, and sometimes you want to move out of your home and just move somewhere else. If you're having to pay for, like an older person, a senior, is having to pay for utilities and all that. A lot of times they would love to have somewhere to go. And I just want to thank you all for what you have done in Greenville, because it has really, really made a difference.
Thank you, Councilwoman Cole.
Any other comments?
Move to approve.
Second.
Mayor and Council, one clarification. Staff wanted to amend the motion to say staff recommends the City Council approve the $1 million home fund commitment and bring back a development agreement for council's consideration. Because there's no contract right now, so we want to bring it back to council.
Move to approve as revised.
All right, motion's been made by Councilmember Bell, second by Councilmember Daniels. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay.
Motion passes, Mayor, 4-0.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Berryman. All right, we'll move on to item number 11.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 11 is a review of the proposed projects funded with the American Rescue Plan Act funding. While Michael Cowan is walking up, he'll provide this presentation along with Don Octagon and Byron Hayes. This is a follow-up on 3 projects that the council asked us to bring back some additional information. Deputy City Manager Michael Cowan.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council.
Good evening.
Back in September and October, staff brought forward its proposed appropriation plan for the American Rescue Funding Act, and you can see just a summary of those projects that are listed here to be funded with ARPA funding, and it's broken down between projects not available for redirection that have been earmarked for specific purposes, or that was being funded through the lost revenue calculation, and then projects that would be available for redirection based off of the will of council. Also included within this chart are supplemental dollars that the staff would utilize and the city would utilize CDBG or home funding in order to help supplement some of the other projects. For the month of November, staff was asked to bring back additional information related to 4 different project areas as part of a discussion in the overall scheme of the appropriation plan. That information included information related to essential employee premium pay, the diversity study, nonprofit grant program funding, and an outdoor regional multipurpose sports complex. As part of that November discussion, staff also informed City Council that in October, a bill went through the U.S. Senate that would actually allow for more flexibility with the use of ARPA funding. And it would allow flexibility with the use of that funding specifically for infrastructure-related projects. Also, that staff communicated that at that point in time in November, that the bill had again been approved by the Senate, but had been sent over to the House of Representatives for consideration. And we are still waiting for that final consideration to come to bear. So at that point in time, Council discussed waiting until more information became available regarding the pending federal legislation before moving forward with a formal appropriation plan approval. However, at that time, Council also discussed that approval of a formal appropriation plan was not necessary in order to move forward with funding of select initiatives and projects. Council requested staff bring back information related to 3 potential funding areas for consideration of immediate funding. Those projects are Thomas Foreman Park, Greenfield Terrace, and essential employee premium pay. Over the next few minutes, staff will review each one of these projects a little bit further in detail. And at this point in time, I'd ask Don Octagon, Director of Recreation and Parks, to come forward and talk about the first 2 projects.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I've got an update on 2 potential projects, Thomas Foreman Park campus expansion, and also Greenfield Terrace. First project that we'll discuss is Thomas Foreman Park. Thomas Foreman Park is located off Memorial Drive in the West Greenville community, in the corner of 5th Street and Memorial Drive. This project received favorable feedback during the survey conducted by city staff last summer and fall. The project will include acquisition of property located north of Thomas Foreman Park to allow for the proposed expansion and additional amenities. The city block is approximately 2.9 acres, located in a qualified census tract, and includes 14 parcels. Property acquisition process would begin with acquisition letters mailed to homeowners once given the direction to proceed. Could take up to 24 to 36 months, but could also be completed in many phases. Potential park improvements included in this expansion would include expansion of the Nash Street parking lot, which is just south of Epps Recreation Center. This would require staff to relocate and enhance the current playground. It includes the addition of the 4th Street parking lot, which will accommodate parking for the new community pool, which is currently under construction. It would provide access to a future Greenwood connection via Nash Street. Other potential amenities that are possible include outdoor basketball courts, pickleball, tennis courts, outdoor fitness area with shade covering, picnic shelter, and expansion of the current walking trail that's on site. Staff would seek input from the community as to the actual amenities proposed for this project if directed to move forward. And I'll pause here to see if there's any questions about the Thomas Foreman Park expansion at this time.
Have you done any outreach to members in the community about acquiring all these homes in that area?
To this date, we have not. We've talked to some community members to kind of gauge the interest, and we feel like with communication with the property owners, that'd be the first step to get their feedback. This first phase approach, so of the properties, the west part of this of the parcel, there's more vacant lots, so less houses. On the east side of the property, there's more houses with either rented, who has tenants, or owned. And so this plan right here would allow us to move forward with the western part of the parcel first, if it took longer for the eastern part as far as acquisition.
I know when we were out there for the groundbreaking for the construction of the new pool over there, I spoke to one of the ladies that was in attendance, and we were standing right on the property, and she pointed out if you could look directly across into one of these front rows is where she grew up. And she had mentioned that that was her house, and she was proud of the fact that it was still standing there. Mm-hmm. So I would highly recommend that we do some type of public engagement before moving forward with taking over that land.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Any
You're
other
going
questions
to
about
talk about
Thomas?
a phase two at some point here, or is that?
The Thomas Foreman Park?
Yeah.
This will be just a current proposal. If asked to move forward, then we would do more public engagement and also.
Okay. And this would take the full 1.6 million?
Part of the acquisition would hopefully be, which staff would look to acquire the property through CDBG money, and the remaining 1.1 to 1.6 would be for the amenities proposed.
On this phase?
Yes.
Okay, because the original proposal, the original information we got was that the 1.6 million was for the whole, was for both what you're now calling phase one and phase two. Is that a?
Well, the only
It
difference.
also had a ball field there.
Yes. So the ball field, since we're not moving forward, since the Guy Smith project has not been considered, we're not having to add a ball field to our park system at this point. So now we're looking at other amenities that the community may want in the West Greenville area.
If I could say, Councilmember Smiley, I think that what the project would envision is, if the council is interested in moving forward, we would do some public engagement to understand what are the components of a park, the amenities that the residents would be interested in having at the park. That might include outdoor basketball, that might include parking, that might include playgrounds and tennis courts. What this project envisions is the expansion of the Thomas Foreman Park. When Don talks about phase 1 and 2, it's really phase 1 and 2 for property acquisition. It's not phase 1 and 2 for park development.
Okay, and so I appreciate the flexibility. I mean, I agree. I think that my comment about the ball field is just that it seems to be we're quite flexible about what would go there, and that's a good thing. I'm pleased that we are considering all sorts of options. My concern actually is, that the price that was proposed was, 1.4 to 1.6 million, 1.5, whatever, and I just want to ensure that my understanding of that was for the whole project, whatever what you're calling phase 1 and 2, and I just wanted to assure that was still our understanding.
Okay, well, that is certainly our plan. Again, that's for lack of a better term, that's a ballpark number, right? Because we know we'll have to do acquisition, and then we would have to do planning, and so we would better have an idea of what that cost would be when we get some plans on paper. We understand what the components of the park would be. If that's the limit that council wants to set on the park, then we'll make sure that we deliver a park that comes in at that price, that expansion.
How many homes are in that area?
There are, Don.
There's
So
a
there's
significant amount of homes.
There are 14 parcels. Of the 14 parcels, 5 are vacant lots, 6 are rental properties, and 3 are permanent residences.
So what would the acquisition look like for those homeowners that are currently there?
It will start with acquisition. It will start with a letter. Yes, it will start there. Then I've talked to Ms. Berryman about the process, and we would have to look at further steps as far as that. Her staff did do a research on those parcels, and like I said, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rental properties. A couple of those have no power at this point, so we've done some research, and so we just have to do more research on the properties if we choose to move forward.
Well, one thing I do want to say is, because I represent this area, and no slight to the post office, but a lot of people are not getting their mail in that area, so I think we need to come up with some ways to ensure that they are being informed that this is going on.
Right, and so we would, Councilmember Daniels, and for the rest of the council's information, we would have to follow a Uniform Relocation Act process, and that would require the use of appraisals and second appraisals. That would also require relocation assistance to both the tenants and potentially the property owners in there. It's that federal process is pretty exhaustive and would be required because there's federal money, both potentially some CDBG as well as some federal ARPA money on this project.
And that process is about how long?
That is really dependent on, a lot of factors, but it.
Nobody's going to be caught off guard.
No one would be caught. And we can't, this is a process in which we would work with the property owners and/or tenants to purchase property. So no one can be caught off guard,
And if,
once the process starts.
Councilmember Smiley.
and if I understand it, that those protocols involve not just support for people who may be selling property, but if you're living in a property that is being sold, there's significant rental assistance. Well, I don't know, it's relocation assistance that would go to tenants there that
Correct. It's a
They're being-
very
that we're being
elaborate
asked to move.
process. It's a very elaborate process.
But I'd also like to comment too that it's not going to be easy to find something of the equivalent rent or mortgage for those people living in those homes. Right now, we're probably at a peak of rental payments and how much the rental rates have gone up. And I can tell you from our city standpoint, we need more housing. And, it's going to be tough for them to find something with a similar payment, depending if they own it or if they're renting in that area. So I'd be very, very cautious, because just because the assistance could be there doesn't mean they can afford that. So if they go out there and they're in a 3-bedroom house right now, finding a 3-bedroom house for what they're paying right now is probably a heck of a lot less than going into the market and finding something somewhere else.
Right. The Federal Relocation Act would actually require that we use funds to make up the difference between the market rate for a similar kind of unit, for what they're paying, to what the new market rate would be for that unit.
For how many years?
It really depends. I certainly can't quote the Federal Relocation Act, but there are very sophisticated and very complex procedures related to this. And again, I think it's important to point out that what we were trying to do today is bring the council, I shouldn't use the term you all, bring the council some information related to a project that the council as a body expressed interest in. We could, once the council is interested in moving forward, what we would need to bring you back is a schedule and a potential budget, and outline for you what those relocation process would look like.
I mean, I would say I'm all in favor of expanding amenities over at the Ep Center, but I don't want to do it on the backs of the individuals that have lived there for decades. Councilmember Smiley?
So, again, I want to go back to, when this was originally, every time this has been come to council before as a proposal, it was, there was a dollar figure there and, and a fully developed, and, which paid for, the acquisition and full development of a park, right? Or an expansion to the park. And I just want to confirm that that's still where we are, right? That there's not, I don't want to be looking around in 2-3 years and suddenly it's a $2.5 million project. Because, I'm just, things seem to be changing a little bit right in front of me, and that was the purpose of my question.
Again, I think it's important to point out that when we put together the potential plan for the use of the ARPA money, what we were trying to do is to identify buckets of funding for projects. Okay? I would like to be able to tell you, Councilmember Smiley, we would put in these 6 amenities and that would cost this X amount of money, but we certainly haven't done any of the engineering. We haven't had the discussions on the property acquisition. What we're saying is, if the council wants to set an upper limit, then we will bring you back a project that meets that upper limit. But there will have to be a lot more work that will have to go on related to this project. And the other thing to point out is if we bring you a project that says X, Y, and Z cost this, you may say, we don't want X, Y, and Z, we want you to add A, B, and C, and that will add more money. We are in the very, very early stages. It's very fluid. What we are interested in finding out from the council is the council as a body interested in the expansion of the Thomas Foreman Park, and this is what the next a couple of steps would look like.
And I've said this from the beginning. I'm for the expansion, but not to individuals who are residing in those homes. I know the hotel is taken care of, but I think there are some other things. Because what I hear you saying tonight is because we may not do Guy Smith with making more expansions here. Is that correct? No?
No, I think what Mr. Octagon is saying is that originally the plan was to put a baseball field on this site. Depending on what the council chooses to do about Guy Smith, you may or may not need a baseball field on this site. The second thing I think it's important to point out is we cannot do Thomas Foreman Park expansion without doing property acquisition.
So we can't do a total expansion without the acquisition, because we can do some things without.
We could, and we really won't know what we can do until we talk to the property owner. If the council isn't, it will be hard to do an expansion of the Thomas Foreman Park without a complete or contiguous area of property acquisition, right? So if we would have to acquire a number of lots in order to make an appreciable expansion for Thomas Foreman Park.
So what happens to those individuals who do not wish to sell?
Then that will certainly be the prerogative of the city council. What I can tell you is that there are, because the project, the property acquisition will have to take place using Uniform Relocation Act. There will be benefits to the property owners. I don't want you to think that the benefits are huge, but there are rules in place. Okay, but that is the prerogative of the council. If the council doesn't, if the council wants to make this all voluntary, that's certainly the council's prerogative. What I will say is, it will be very difficult to plan an expansion if it is a snaggletooth or sawtooth look for the property acquisition.
Is it?
Go ahead.
Is it possible for us to go forward with, reaching out to these homeowners and, seeing if they are interested on a voluntary basis first? And
We can certainly reach out to the property owners to ask if they are interested in a voluntary program. We can certainly do that.
yeah, that's what I would be more comfortable with. I think we learned a $2.5 million lesson at Town Common about, forcefully moving people, out of their neighborhood. So if we could find out on a voluntary, basis first, that would make me more comfortable. If not, I think there is some room where, Don mentioned there's some vacant lots. Maybe we could, figure out the parking in that space and readjust some of our plans. The parking that's up here closer to Fifth Street, maybe refashion that into the basketball courts. I mean, obviously, like you said, we're still in the early stages, but I'd like to, find out about the voluntary process rather than a
So
acquisition.
what I hear the council saying is you are potentially interested, I'm just testing this out, potentially interested in having us reach out to see who might be voluntarily interested in selling the parcel. And then potentially we could map that out to determine if that allows us to do some expansion, how that expansion would look.
That's what I'd rather do.
Make a motion.
Need
Are
a
you
motion?
Or are we gonna, is this just one of the things
It's
that you wanna
one
go
of
to?
three. There are
Do you
two.
want us to go through the entire presentation before we make any decisions?
That's up
I
to
don't
the
think we would
council.
make decisions without all of our colleagues being here tonight anyway, would we?
Sure.
Okay,
So,
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
okay, so Don, you
Yep.
go on to the next.
All right, thank you all. The next project is Greenfield Terrace Park Improvements.
yeah.
Greenfield Terrace, located along Highway 11, north of the airport and within the Greenfield Terrace neighborhood. I want to review current park amenities and current park usage. Current park amenities include the Barnes Ibram Taft Community Building, picnic shelter with restrooms, playground, community garden, outdoor basketball court, walking trail, and outdoor restroom facility. Current park usage includes summer camp for ages 5 to 12, various senior programming, outdoor basketball free play, community outreach events, including the most recently organized trunk or treat that was held in October, which had a great attendance. Also, it is the Barnes Ibram Taft building and the shelter is one of our most popular rented amenities within our department. It averages 120 rentals annually, brings in approximately $26,000 average revenue each year. Potential park improvements for Greenfield Terrace include playground replacement and improvements. Playground was last replaced in 2009. Outdoor fitness area with shade covering. New outdoor basketball court and improvements to the current basketball court. Various indoor improvements, which include kitchen enhancements, interior acoustic enhancements, and also team programming initiatives. We'll look to pave, another option is to pave portions of the existing parking lot, add lighting, extend walking trail to Boys and Girls Club, which is approximately 1,000 feet, landscaping improvements, and possible site design depending on the amenities chosen. A lot of the amenities you see here have been discussed with the neighborhood through staff input and just not official public engagement, but before moving forward, staff would seek input from the community as to actual amenities proposed for the project. And again, I'll pause for questions.
Any questions? Councilmember Daniels.
I'm excited about this project. However, will there not be an indoor workout room?
So currently, based on the current dollar amount allocated towards this project, based on the current construction projects we are currently working on within the recreation and parks, we wouldn't be able to do an indoor fitness center without taking up space inside the building, the Barnes and Taft building. It would require an addition to the building, and that's where staff we've talked to the outdoor fitness area with the covered area would give an opportunity for wellness in the community. But given the $500,000 dollar amount, we wouldn't be able to add on to the building currently.
Well, what do we need to do to reallocate that? So my problem with this is that you're limiting the citizens yet again in that area. None of our elderly or young people will want to work out outdoors in the cold. And again, all of our community centers have an indoor exercise facility, and I would like to see that for this as well. I'm not sure what we need to do to make that happen.
That would be a discussion point for the council to make. Again, this was a project that was laid out for the rescue plan dollars. So how the council wants to allocate those dollars is up to the council. So that would be a discussion for Councilman Daniels, for you and your colleagues.
And we will. And again, I want them all present for that discussion, but just so you know, I think it's only fair that every community center is made the same, whether it's closing in this spot here that you have and having those indoor exercise equipment as with all of our city buildings.
Councilmember Smiley.
But I think it would be nice to know what that would entail, right? I mean, I know that, because again, I think that the way this developed is that there was a council kind of said, hey, what would it take to improve Greenfield Terrace? And the $500,000 number kind of came back from staff as to, hey, we think that would be an interesting number. So I think that, I think it'd be interesting to know what it would mean to have it, something similar to what was what the other community centers have.
So Councilmember Smiley, is that what the council wants us to go out and explore the cost of doing a building addition to Greenfield Terrace?
Yes.
That was my understanding of the original proposal.
Mine too. When we initially talked about it, I mean, I never made qualms about that. I like to see an indoor area that looks like the majority, all of our other recreation centers for our citizens. Not changed, so.
So you're looking for, you would like the staff to come back with
What it would take to create, I guess,
mean,
an addition to the building, is that what you're saying?
Can you put together like a brief?
We could do some back of the envelope calculation for the cost of development for an expansion to this facility. Just to clarify, that's for fitness center?
Well, everything else is fine. It's just that it appears to me that the fitness center is outside. And I'd like for it to be inside like our other centers.
Okay, well then we'll go back and do the calculation.
May I ask a quick question? So
Yes.
you're looking for something similar to what we have at same size as South Greenville type fitness room, or maybe a little smaller depending on?
What we can
Drew
do,
Field,
I
we
mean,
have-
I'm not asking for a particular size,
Okay.
but I want it to kind of look like all of our community centers. I don't want north of the river to be, so short on what everyone else has, so to speak.
Okay.
And, yeah. I'm not an outdoor person. I don't want to work out outdoors. I'm going to be honest with you, so,
We can.
yeah. But I mean, all the other things, I think you guys did a great job, and I appreciate it. Mhm.
Yeah.
So do we need a motion for that, or are we waiting on
I
what are we doing?
think that we have enough information.
Yeah.
Oh, you have, okay, okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I'll turn over to Mr. Hayes.
Thank you, Don.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
We'll have a brief discussion about it. Essential employee premium pay now. The ARPA funds allow the city to provide premium pay for eligible workers performing eligible work. And the guidance describes eligible workers as local government employees, so we're covered there. It describes essential work as work that's performed not while teleworking and work that involves regular in-person interactions with other individuals, as well as regular physical contact with objects that other people have also come in contact with. The limits to the Act allow us to pay up to $13 an hour for eligible work. The pay must be supplemental. It cannot supplant additional pay or current pay. And anyone making above $76,515 would require extra justification in order to be paid from the ARPA funds. And additionally, no former employees would be eligible for payments with this funding. So just a breakdown of some of the eligibility. We would provide a one-time lump sum payment using the ARPA funds, and the time period by which we would consider eligible work would be between March of 2020 and April of 2021. As I said, the work has to be eligible work, and anyone who would receive this pay that would increase their total compensation above $76,515 would require some extra justification. Anyone who is not eligible for payment from the ARPA funds would receive a one-time payment from the general fund. However, that payment would be 50% of the ARPA allocation to other employees. So just a breakdown of the three options that we have a $500 one-time payment, a $1,000 one-time payment, and a $1,500 one-time payment. ARPA funding would provide about $300,000, $600,000, and $900,000, and the general fund would provide roughly $20,000, $40,000, and $60,000. And in addition to that, the non-essential payment would be, just for clarification, $250,000, $500,000, and $750. Any questions?
All right. Good job.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Now
Thank
I'll
you.
turn it back over to Deputy City Manager Michael Callis.
Deputy.
So just to summarize, we end with the timeframes. We started presenting back in September on a proposed plan, knowing that December of 2024, December 31st is when all the dollars had to be appropriated, and December of 2026 when all the funding must be expended. So what we would like to, we have heard some information here tonight. What I've heard is that we definitely want to go back and cost out an addition to Greenfield Terrace to add an indoor workout room. And then we can entertain moving forward with ideas about acquiring property voluntarily across from the Apps Recreation Center. And then we open up for discussion.
So,
Councilmember Smiley?
just on a process, a procedural standpoint, I mean, we have this agenda item here. Can we continue this agenda item to the Thursday meeting and have additional discussion, or do we need to
You're probably going to need more time than that to look at.
We certainly will not be able to bring back this additional information by Thursday.
Okay, but there's some of this, okay, for instance, on the premium pay, we're not necessarily asking for additional information. We're just waiting for for a full council to be here to discuss, to potentially vote on it. That was my concern, is like, how much of this has to be delayed to do additional to do additional analysis versus what can be, if we could get the full council here, can we approve now, I guess?
Well, I believe that the additional information for Greenfield Terrace, as well as the property acquisition process, I'm not even sure, I'm not actually clear what the council's direction related to the property acquisition at Thomas Foreman Park. The council is free to act at any point. You all are free to act tonight. If you want to wait till your other colleagues come on Thursday, you can do that. We won't be able to bring you back additional information on Thursday on the two big items.
Right.
But that's certainly the prerogative of the council to decide. If you want to move forward with the pay increases, that's the council's prerogative to be able to make that decision.
And my question was really for the attorney, do we need to take any specific action with this item in order to have it available to us on Thursday, or can we simply bring it up on Thursday?
I mean, you could continue the item, the portion regarding the premium or the increase in essential employee premium payment. You could continue that portion to Thursday, and the other items per staff would need to be brought back at a later date. So that could be the prerogative of council if you want to do that.
Well, you all know how I feel. So.
Do we anticipate a full council on Thursday?
I have no idea.
Then I'm not suggesting we take any action then. I think if we need to create a new agenda, add something to the agenda item on Thursday, we can do that. Thanks for the comments.
So, may I ask one additional, is the council, do you desire that we bring some additional information back in January? Is that the request?
I think January would be adequate if you think that's a sufficient amount of time.
We will certainly
And
can.
then to clarify, the information we would bring back in January would be the potential ballpark, high-level cost of creating an indoor fitness space at Greenfield Terrace Park. I'm still a little unclear about what the council is interested in related to Thomas Foreman.
What I heard was that council doesn't seem to be willing to move forward on with an expansion that would involve a non-voluntary land acquisition. So I think what we're asking is, to the extent it's feasible, to touch base with the people who own land there and find out if they're open to having the city buy their property for the purposes of expanding the park.
So that is is that the direction of council, that we do some engagement with the public within the Thomas Foreman Park area to determine whether or not the residents in that area are interested in participating in a voluntary sale?
Specifically the properties that have been highlighted that were mentioned by Don. Like 15 properties or so, yeah.
14, 16, okay.
That was what I heard. If anybody.
That's what I'm with.
Any other comments?
And I just think we need to be mindful and careful that we're not telling people that this is what's going to happen, that we're genuinely asking their opinion about their homes. Because if you have older individuals, they may not have that understanding, that we're just inquiring and not demanding. So I just want us to be, I know the staff does a wonderful job, but just be mindful of presentation.
And we'll do that, and just want to make sure it's also kind of pointed out that, that might take a couple of months. So that's, we can have those conversations, but those kind of answers may not happen all at once. So we're talking maybe several months to try, and that's the purpose of why we want to start having, to kind of get direction on moving forward with some of these items, so that we can actually turn staff loose into having some of those conversations.
Then perhaps we could suggest that we move the next presentation on both of these projects, both the Thomas Foreman Park as well as Greenfield Terrace, and we move it to at least February to allow for sufficient time to cost out, to do some engagement, as well as sufficient time to cost out some improvements to Greenfield Terrace.
I'm okay with that.
If that's the amount of time y'all think you need, that's fine.
February.
But not for the employee. Well, we can come back to that.
That's certainly. up
That's
to the
certainly,
council.
that's right.
Yeah. We understand contracts not to discuss that.
Okay, so,
Mayor Pro Tem Glover?
so where we are now, staff's gonna go back and, try to find out who the people are who live and whether or not they want to, sell the properties. There are some, landlords, so you have to talk to them. And then, to see if, I'd hate for us to do all the improvements at Foreman Park and don't include the new baseball field or whatever that we're talking about. And, I understand what Ms. Daniel's saying is because people that get moved around so much, you know, they've already been moved from this area to that area, from this area to that area. So, we want to be real mindful of when we talk to these people, we let them know that, because you're probably going to run into a lot of rentals, more so than home ownership on those streets. But I would hope that, I don't think you all can have all that ready for us, like you said. You need some time. And, you know, and if your time runs out before you get all the information, then we can just put it on another day. But I really want to see all the improvements for Thomas Foreman Park and the Barnes Even Taft building, because they do need something there, because it's really not anything there for little kids to play. They've got machine games out there that even the parks people don't know how to play them, so we can't teach them to the kids. I mean, it's a waste of money, really, to have bought those things and not even know how to use them.
So we will talk to those that are in the area around Thomas Foreman Park and tell them that the council is exploring the idea of some expansion and find out, we are trying to gauge their interest in whether or not they would want to participate in a voluntary sale of the property. So we'll do that, we'll write some letters, we'll hand deliver some of those letters to the those that are in the area, and we'll collect some of that information. It's about 16 property owners. 14 parcels, the county owns a part. So we'll do that, and in the meanwhile, we'll also look at what the, we'll get some ballpark numbers for the cost of doing some additional improvements to the building, which will be an expansion of the building to allow for a fitness center at the Barnes Ephraim Taft building.
Right. Because that's a big area. They've got a lot of park. They've got a lot of space over there that can be developed.
It's a nice park. Okay.
And we're not even building a whole new community center, we're just kind of adding on. But I do have a question, for those individuals at, Thomas Foreman Park, who we can't do anything about because they're renting, have the homeowners made them aware that we know of, that this may be coming up, or will they hear from us first?
Right, well, so Councilmember Daniels, we haven't told anybody that we're talking about. I mean, I'm sure they know now since we're televising the meeting.
Yes.
Okay, so, but we will write a letter to, we will start with the property owners. It all starts with the property owners. We can prepare some information for tenants to tell them that we're talking to the property owners about purchases. We don't know what's going on. If they have any questions, reach out, okay? But the conversation starts with the property owners.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would definitely start with the property owners, because if you start going directly to the tenants, and their next thing they're gonna do is start moving all over the place, and then you're gonna have some angry landlords that are gonna be out there.
We'll start, we will provide some notice to the tenants to just say, we're having this conversation, just to let you know, we're having this conversation, but we'll get some information out.
Yeah, and I just can't stress enough, it's going to have to be a patient process, because we might actually bring back Greenfield Terrace before we bring back Thomas Foreman Park, just because of the time it will take to go through that process to get a handle on which of those property owners would be willing to consider. I'll say.
We understand. And we're trying to get the best, but we're trying to provide you all with the information that you request at the time you requested, based on the knowledge we have. The budget numbers we put in there are our best guess at this point. It's a guess, our best guess as to what the cost would be.
All right. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll close it and we'll go to number 12.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 12 is a budget ordinance amendment number 5 to the 21-22 City of Greenville budget and capital projects fund, and I'll ask Mr. Hayes for that presentation.
Mayor and Council, this is budget amendment number 5. Amendment number 5 includes adjustments to the general fund, the fire rescue capital projects fund, and the rec and parks capital projects fund. Breakdown of the amendments: we are recording carryover from the fiscal year 2021 budget related to Phase 2 of Wildwood Park development. It's an increase to the general fund and the rec and parks capital project fund of $451,000. And we are allocating debt funding for the purchase of new communications equipment for the fire rescue department, increasing the fire rescue capital projects fund of $1.1 million. As a result of this amendment, this brings the City of Greenville operating fund to $151.2 million, and staff recommends approval of the City of Greenville operating funds and the capital projects fund ordinances. Any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Hayes?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion been made by Councilmember Smiley, second by Councilmember Bell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Motion passes, Mayor, 4-0.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on to the review of the December 9th, 2021 City Council agenda. Madam Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. On the December 9th, 2021 Council agenda, the Council will will add to the agenda a special recognition for a retiree. The Council will consider appointments to boards and commissions, an appointment to the Mideast Commission. Additionally, the Council will hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance to annex Caroline Place involving 23.797 acres located along the eastern right-of-way of Charles Boulevard and adjacent to Grace Church. Item 4 will be a public hearing and an ordinance requested by Spring Forest Road Group LLC to rezone 11.764 acres located along the northeastern corner of the intersection of Spring Forest Road and the CSX Railroad from medical office to medical residential high-density multifamily. The Council will also hold a public hearing on the 22-23 Annual Action Plan for CDBG and home funds. And the Council and the staff will request that the Council hold a closed session on an economic development matter.
And you were so excited, we're going to circle back to item number 1. Appointments to boards and commissions.
Oh, I'm sorry. I went right by. Sorry.
Madam Clerk.
Okay. So Board of Adjustment, Councilmember Bell. Okay. Housing Authority, that is for Councilmember Litchfield, who's not here. Human Relations Council, Mayor Pro Tem Glover. You do have a few that are eligible for reappointment, but we'll get you a list of those.
Okay.
Multimodal Transportation Commission, that is Councilmember Daniels.
Gonna continue.
Okay. PCRC, we're working on that one together with Ms. Naipaul, Mayor Pro Tem Glover. Recreation and Parks Commission, that is also for you, Mayor Pro Tem Glover. We'll take a look at your candidates. And the last one is the Youth Council. It looks like there are some that are eligible for reappointment, and we will get that to you, Mrs. Glover.
She's got them all.
She's got them all.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I know.
And then just the Mideast Commission.
Next is the Mideast Commission, and staff is recommending that you reappoint Tom Barnett as your regular member and Adrian Atkinson as the alternate. But you can do that on Thursday. That can be made by any member of council. All right, and that completes the appointments.
All right, now we'll move on to the city manager's report.
Mayor, I have no report.
All right. Comments by the mayor and city council. Let's start with Councilmember Smiley.
I have no comments, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilmember Bell.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to congratulate the Rampants for winning the Eastern Finals in the 3A football playoffs. They're going to be playing in Chapel Hill on Friday for the state championship. So if you've got the time to get up there, please go and support them. Congratulations to the ECU football team for becoming bowl eligible, first time in the last 7 years. We're all really excited about the success that they've had over the last year. And on a more serious note, would like to just give everybody a friendly reminder. Stephen Hardy-Braz, who is a cycling advocate here in town, and he's a guy, if you've seen somebody riding around on a bike in Greenville with him, because he does it a lot, he was recently struck while riding by a guy who was texting and driving. Texting, surfing the web can wait. Surfing social media can wait until we get home. Let's make sure that we're, being good neighbors and making sure that we're being safe while we're out there on the road. And then I'd like to share my Christmas wish for the year, and it would be that I hope that anger and fear disappear and that we have love that lasts through the year. So everybody go out there and, share some Christmas magic, holiday spirit, and be a great neighbor. Thank you, Mayor.
Wow. I like that. Councilmember Daniels?
I have no comments, Mr. Mayor.
He kept you speechless, right?
Yes, he did.
It's tough to follow that. Mayor Pro Tem Glover?
I have no announcements.
All right, that leaves me.
Go for it.
I'd like to echo the comments of Councilmember Bell, all the comments that he said. Congratulations to our Pirates. It's pretty exciting to be able to see them playing in a bowl game. Make sure you support them. Play on December 27th. I think it's at 2:30 p.m. up in Annapolis in the Military Bowl. So we're excited about that. Congratulations to our Pirates basketball team, who is off to, I think, a 7-2 start right now. They're playing really well. I think they just beat Gardner-Webb this last weekend. They're playing really well. It's great to be able to see ECU athletics doing really well because that helps our city out tremendously. Congratulations to our Rose Rampants. We're hopeful that we'll be welcoming back a state champion late Friday night, unless they decide to stay up in Chapel Hill and party all night afterwards. Yeah. Then I might be getting a call from the Chapel Hill mayor. Come get your students. And then I'm trying to think what else there is. I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving because we haven't had a meeting since Thanksgiving. Everybody's safe and had a good time with their family and friends. With that, need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilmember Bell, seconded by Councilmember Daniels. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay.
Motion passes 4-0.
We are adjourned.
Yeah.